What are the things that turn investors off when you pitch? When pitching investors, there are countless things you might say or do that seem smart, but can actually hurt your chances of raising money. It's like there's a secret language investors speak, and you're not fluent in it yet. I learned this the hard way when raising my initial funding. It took me time to crack the code, and along the way, I lost some potential investors. I don't want this to happen to you. I want you to avoid the pitfalls and use the right language from the very beginning. In today's video, I'll share the 10 things you should never do when meeting with investors. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. And let's get started. And let's start with number 1 on our list. Number 1, don't be late. This seems too obvious, but under no circumstances can you ever be late to an investor meeting. Remember, time is the most precious resource an investor has. So you don't want to be at the investor's office or the Zoom link or the coffee shop late. My rule is I want to get to the meeting at least 15 minutes early. If I'm coming from a long distance away, I'll increase my buffer time accordingly, just in case I get delayed by traffic. Then when I get to the meeting, I get set up, I have my pitch queued up and ready to go. That's how you start an investor meeting the right way. Now, let's go to number 2 on our list. Number 2, don't wait, get right to it. It's great that you're early. Now, get started with your pitch. Remember, the clock is ticking. You have maybe 7 or 8 seconds to start making an emotional connection with your audience. Once you shake hands and explain pleasantries, just get started with your origin story of why you started this company. Then jump right into your pitch. Investors like this because you're being respectful of their time. And this gives you a better chance of building the emotional connection between you and your investors. Now, let's move to number 3 on our list. Number 3, don't bring all your co-founders to a pitch meeting. This is a classic mistake. Let's say you have 4 co-founders, like I did. And let's say you bring all 4 of your co-founders to your pitch meeting. There are 2 big problems that you'll have. The first problem is it will take you forever to get through your team's bios when you get to your team slide. This will kill your momentum and really hurt your chances of an investment. The second problem is you'll likely have several people on your team sitting around not adding a thing to the meeting. The issue here is that your team will want to participate, maybe even when they shouldn't. And they can give an answer to a question that can really hurt you. Here's the deal. Investor meetings are serious business. They are not to satisfy the egos of your team. You should only bring people that will participate in the meeting and augment your expertise and knowledge. This is maybe 2 extra people at most. If you have the business knowledge, then you want to bring your CTO. But you wouldn't likely bring your VP of marketing. You get the idea, I hope. Next, let's move to number 4 on our list. Number 4, don't ramble when you're explaining things. One of the worst things you can do is not directly answer investor questions. For example, if an investor asks you, what your current revenue is, then you don't want to tell a story about how you've struggled this year. Instead, you just want to directly answer the question. It makes it look like you're hiding something, and that's a major turnoff for investors. Now, let's go to number 5 on our list. Number 5, don't wing it without preparation. There's just no excuse for not being prepared. Even worse, investors know when you're not prepared. So what should you do? Obviously, you should rehearse your pitch multiple times. I'll get back to this later in the video. Then you should know your numbers. There's a set of numbers you should always know. You should always know your current burn rate, and you should know what your break-even revenue is, and you should know how much money it's going to take for you to get to cash flow break-even. Burn these numbers into your brain. It will serve you well with investors. More importantly, knowing your numbers will help you run your company. Now let's move to number 6 on our list. Number 6, don't change your plan. You're going to get all sorts of suggestions from investors on what your company should do. I certainly did. And many of these suggestions will have you scratching your head. For example, many investors suggested that we should change our strategy. And it's oh so tempting to agree with these investors and change your strategy. However, you don't want to change your strategy in an investor meeting because it will be interpreted as you have no conviction about what you're doing. The trick is in how you respectfully answer concerns like this, which brings us to the next point on our list. Number 7. Number 7, you don't want to get defensive. As I said, investors regularly questioned our strategy. Make no mistake about it, I thought they were wrong. However, I didn't tell investors they were wrong because that would make me look defensive. Instead, depending upon the way a question was phrased, I used one of 2 techniques. The first technique was the yes and technique I learned from improvisation. The idea is simple. Rather than saying you're wrong, you say, yes, of course, that's a great idea, and then you launch into what you want to do and why you want to do it. The second technique is the you're right technique. You can also say I agree. The idea here is you're again saying yes before saying what you want to do. The key with both of these techniques is never tell an investor they are wrong. Now, let's move to number 8 on our list. Yes, that's right, number 8. Don't say you have no competition. Let's say your pitch is going really well, and the investor asks you who your competition is, and you answer confidently, we have no competition. Guess what happens? There goes your investment. Repeat after me. Every startup has competitors. Even if you have a whole new revolutionary way of doing things, your competition is the old way of doing things. It's a much better strategy to embrace the idea of competition, explaining how you're different than the competition, and positioning yourself as an expert in the process. Now, we move to number 9 on our list. Number 9, don't get too technical. It's normal to want to show off all the knowledge you have to investors. The problem is that the more technical you get, the greater the chance you have of losing your audience. At the same time, you will struggle to show how great your product or solution is if you make it too superficial. The trick here is to manage the balancing act. and give just the right amount of detail. Finally, let's move to the last thing on our list, number 10 on our list. Number 10, don't take too long. Let's say you have a 30-minute meeting with an investor. Do you think your pitch should be 30 minutes? No way. I recommend using the divide by 2 technique. This means you make your pitch half the time of your meeting. In the case of a 30-minute meeting, I would prepare a pitch I can complete in 15 minutes. Worst case, this gives you time to answer questions, and just in case the investor is late, you have time as well. Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought, emulate Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would rehearse a keynote presentation at least 90 times. He would rehearse in realistic conditions multiple times per day as he got closer to giving the keynote. The great thing about rehearsing is it takes no special talent. However, you'll get significantly better taking this step. And here's a bonus step for you. Make sure you and your co-founder rehearse your bios for the team slide. Your bio should take no longer than 2 minutes, and your co-founder's bio should take no longer than 1 minute. Now, I have 2 more things for you today. First is my free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides you need to develop an awesome pitch deck. Click the link below this video to download it for free. And second, join my free group of startup CEOs, Zero to Pitch. It's a community for startup CEOs focused on growing their companies and raising funding. Click the link below to join. Finally, click the subscribe button to get notified every time I release a new video. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.